First in high definition from the station on your side, this is WAVY News 10.
Good evening, everyone. We begin tonight at 5 with a look at the Super Doppler 10 radar.
There is green on the screen, meaning rain, but the wind is picking up too.
Chief Meteorologist Don Slater is in the Super Doppler 10 Weather Center now with details on what we can expect for the weekend. Don.
Well, it's not going to be the storm to end all storms, but we are going to see some significant effects in terms of wind and tidal flooding into the area. Here is Super Doppler 10 live. We are seeing some spritzes of rain into the Hampton Roads area, but the bulk of the steady rain is over the Outer Banks, and we can see a bit of an area beginning to develop, some twists developing right on down into here. That is where the actual nor'easter is developing, but don't worry so much about a full-blown nor'easter into our area because it's likely to drop to the southeast, but we'll see some time where we do see some wind into the area, and we'll likely see, again, some tidal flooding, especially for the Outer Banks. Here's our future track computer model and where things are by 8 o'clock this evening. This is really going to kick in with a strong northeasterly wind, especially for Hatteras, but we'll likely see some tidal flooding into the Hampton Roads area as well. Here's where we are for the high tides for Hatteras, 5:25 a.m., 5:21 p.m. We're seeing a high tide basically right now into the area. There's Duck, North Carolina, and there's Sewell's Point. We'll have full details about this brief storm and the rest of our weekend forecast in just a few minutes.
Well, everybody knows it's the best part of recess when you're a kid, the playground. Well, early this morning, a Newport News school lost one in a fire. 10 on your side was the first on the scene this morning after that 4 a.m. fire at Nelson Elementary. That's on Moyer Road off Denby Boulevard. Fire officials are still investigating if this fire is connected to a string of garbage can fires in a different part of the town. 10 on your side's Ann McNamara is live right now at the school to explain why the damage is twofold. Ann. Obviously having some problems being able to talk to Ann. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to her in just a few minutes. Meantime, the school does hope to have the money raised to rebuild that playground and replace it by January.
Well, Norfolk police say a student brought a gun to Granby High School. A teacher called police Thursday and said the student showed him the gun. Officers later arrested that student at his house. He's charged with having a firearm on school property. Only Chopper 10 can give you this, a view from above. It's a water main break in Norfolk, and here's what it looked like not long ago. This is Bush Street above West Only Road, if we can have a look. A spokesperson with Norfolk Utilities says crews are working on fixing this problem, but you can see it is a mess. A 55-year-old woman from Hampton died in a 3-car crash this afternoon. Rescue crews took 2 other people to the hospital, and we also have Chopper 10 earlier above that scene as well. If we can have a look, that's West Pembroke Street near Downing Street. We're going to have that for you in a moment. Police say 2 cars were driving in opposite directions when they hit head-on. The fatal crash team is investigating what led up to this accident.
Norfolk police now say they're wrapping up their investigation into the 2008 death of a woman who was in the care of an alleged ringleader in the torture case of a mentally disabled adult. Now, investigators say the review isn't complete, but it does appear that Maxine Lee died from bacterial meningitis. That's the same conclusion as the initial investigation. The last person to care for Lee was Linda Weston. Now, police in Philadelphia say Weston and 3 others locked victims in a basement to collect their Social Security and disability checks. One of the victims is a Norfolk man. Police say 40-year-old Herbert Knowles was found chained to a boiler. He is now back home with family, and he's recovering.
Next, a different side of the immigration issue. This is not about whether workers from Mexico are here illegally, but how they're treated on the job. The Labor Department says employers take advantage of these workers, often paying them low wages. And then there's the language barrier and no access to education. Then on your sides, Ava Hurdle is here now to tell us about a new partnership that could change that. Ava?
Tom, the Labor Department is teaming up with the Mexican consulate to let Mexican workers know their rights are protected under the law. An estimated 163,000 Mexican nationals live in Virginia, working in diverse fields such as farming, construction, and hospitality, to name a few. But the Labor Department admits its investigations have found employers in Virginia violating minimum wage, overtime, and child labor provisions enforced by the Wage and Hour Division. Plus, there are workers who are afraid to report it for fear of retribution. As the numbers of Mexican workers continues to climb, the Labor Department and the Mexican consulate are joining forces to educate them about their rights as employees in the United States. Bruce Clark of the department's Richmond office and counsel Annabelle Gomez Toledo of the Mexican Embassy in Washington, D.C. signed off on agreements in English and Spanish to form a partnership. The Mexican consulate will include the Labor Department in its community events, as well as when it takes its office on the road to reach out to Mexican workers.
We provide several services to our countrymen here in this region, and we have not only channels of communication through the media, but also within our facilities.
Clark believes this partnership will mean a success.
We think that by being a partner with the consular section of the Mexican Embassy, we as an agency are given some legitimacy in the eyes of the Mexican workers, so that they will pay attention to what we have to say.
Now, this is the 12th such partnership agreement signed so far. The plan is to have some 30+ done before the year's end. I'm Ava Hurdle, 10 on your side.
By the way, if you'd like to file a complaint, you can call the Labor Department's Norfolk office at 757-441-3490, and complaints are handled confidentially. We'll repeat this number for you later in the newscast.
We're going back to that story we first told you about a few minutes ago, where Ann McNamara is right now on the phone talking about that fire we went to at 4 o'clock this morning. Ann, tell us what actually happened there.
Well, here's what happened exactly. There was a fire, and police and fire investigators are calling it suspicious. They don't have a cause still. They also still don't know if it's connected to that other rash of overnight fires in garbage can and dumpsters in Newport News. But the fire burned one of the playground areas, and what exactly was burned was a slide. There was also part of a bridge, and there was also a little sort of an enclosed area where students say they actually would stay in there, and they think perhaps maybe that's where the fire started. Now, it's completely burned to the ground, and here's why the damage is twofold. It could cost $12,000 to $20,000 to replace. That's what the principal tells me, and the students actually raised money 10 years ago to build this. They raised $30,000. Parks and Recreation matched that amount, and that's how they funded these 3 playgrounds. So it's really a sad story here for the students who have a lot of memories in these playgrounds, and the principal says she really just can't understand why.
It's just senseless, and it hurts the children.
I hope whoever does it at least have the courage to beg forgiveness or something from God, because whoever did that was messed up.
That was a former student. He's actually in 7th grade now, but it really, again, has hit the older students hardest, and that's because they have 5-6 years with the memories on this playground. They told me they remember playing certain games. Everyone was just crowding around it today at recess, literally reciting different memories. Now, coming up at 6 o'clock, neighbors in this area have told us they've seen increased incidents of vandalism. They say they've seen benches knocked over, and now this, and some of them say they're really starting to get nervous in this area. So coming up at 6, hear from those neighbors. Reporting live in Newport News, I'm Ann McNamara. Back to you guys.
Yeah, very sad that the kids still have to live with this, but as Ann told us a few minutes ago, the school does hope to have the money raised to be able to rebuild that playground by sometime in January. Well, this weekend, North Carolina shoppers don't have to pay sales tax on energy-saving appliances. The tax holiday started today, and it continues through Sunday. Qualified tax-exempt products feature the Energy Star label. They include washing machines, freezers, refrigerators, air conditioners, and ceiling fans. Then a robbery at gunpoint unfolds as a camera rolls. New at 5:30, find out why police say this was no random act.
And a little boy with autism lost in the woods in Virginia for 6 days.
I knew he wasn't going to survive another night.
But he was found when a mother lost hope. You're going to hear what happened when she finally saw him again.
Big or small, when word of possible debt card use fees come up, a lot of people wondered if they should abandon their banks. Well, we're on your side with advice on whether it's worth your money to switch.
You're watching WAVY News 10 at 5 with Tom Shad, Nicole Ribas, and Super Doppler 10 Chief Meteorologist Don Slater.
Fed up with your bank? Well, you can vent your frustrations tomorrow because it's Bank Transfer Day. A social media movement is encouraging people to ditch their big banks for smaller ones and credit unions. But the question is, should you even bother to do this? Well, 10 is on your side, helping you to make that decision. Some smaller banks and credit unions have fewer branches or ATMs. That could lead to out-of-network fees. And for those used to their banking with their smartphone, mobile, and online options may not be as great. And those small banks and credit unions still have fees of their own, so you might want to shop around. And if you do switch, give yourself time before you close that old account to make sure that everything is clear. Don't overlook those direct deposits and debits so automatic bill payments aren't drawing on an empty account. A new survey by the National Credit Union Association says at least 650,000 people have switched to credit unions since several big banks announced they were going to tack on those new debit card fees. Many of those now have canceled. Those banks have decided to scrap those fees under pressure from customers.
That's it on your side. Consumer alert now. Airfares are going up again. U.S. Airways and Delta Airlines are both raising fares on many U.S. flights up to $10 per round trip. The hike is an attempt to boost revenue during this normally slow time for travel. United and Continental have both raised the minimum prices they'll charge on sales and some other fares. American Airlines is considering whether to match that increase. The Air Transport Association of America expects 37,000 fewer people to fly during Thanksgiving compared to last year. Experts blame high unemployment, less disposable income, and high energy prices. The airlines are trimming the number of flights to keep planes full.
You could call this close, amazingly close, and it was caught on tape. Wait till you see what leapt out of the water.
Her son spent 6 days alone missing in the woods of a Virginia park.
It's like time stopped. The earth stopped.
A mother speaks out about the worst 6 days of her life, and the very day that she lost hope was the same day that a man found her son alive. Across the nation tonight, 6 people were hurt when this helicopter crashed in a cornfield last night in Indiana. The chopper then burst into flames. It happened during heavy rain. The 6 people on board escaped before the helicopter caught on fire.
And this, a huge fire in Arizona. It began last night at a cotton warehouse in Glendale. That's just north of Phoenix. Firefighters had to work into the daylight hours, and you can see it was a big one. The warehouse stores thousands of bales of cotton for farmers around the state, making it really difficult to put out.
A 6-hour-long post office scare in West Virginia. Hazmat crews and the bomb squad evacuated a building and quarantined 15 people after a report of an exploding package and a spray with white powder.
Authorities say that explosion turned out to be just the pop of a malfunctioning fluorescent bulb of all things. The white powder was most likely smoke from the damaged bulb. Well, tonight we're hearing for the first time from the mother of that child with autism who was found last week.
The 8-year-old wandered off from a Civil War park in Hanover County. 10 on your side, Stephanie Harris has the story.
Tom and Alvita, Robbie Wood Jr., right here he is. He was missing for nearly a week. Now, he normally doesn't speak, which made the search even more difficult and more desperate for his mom.
It was really hard.
Barbara Locker says it was the worst 6 days of her life that it would be for any mother.
It was like time stopped. The earth stopped.
Her 8-year-old son, Robert Wood, had gotten lost in North Anna Battlefield Park. He was there with his father and father's girlfriend. Days passed. Hundreds of volunteers came to search for him. Locker remembers her surprise when she saw the long line.
All the people. I couldn't believe for my son to be missing and then for everybody to come together like that.
Locker joined searches, went in the woods, convinced that her son could hear her.
I screamed for him and screamed for him, and I walked and screamed for him some more.
But after so many days with no reply, on Friday morning, Locker says she lost hope.
I just dropped to my knees, and I said, I give up, I give in, because I knew he wasn't going to survive another night.
Hours later, she learned her son was found alive. She rushed to the hospital.
He reached his hand out to my face like that, and that's when I said his hand was really cold, really purple, and he was scratched up.
Robert is now out of intensive care and recovering. Cards and banners with words of comfort await him at home. Locker says if she's ever doubted miracles or human compassion, she doesn't anymore, and she's grateful for that.
I can't thank all of them because there's so many.
She wants to thank as many as she can, many of the parents who came to help, who sent letters, some who themselves have children with autism. But more than that, she wants to hold her son at home.
Now that I got Robert, I don't want to let him go.
Now, doctors found a hole in Robbie's esophagus, and they think it might be from something he ate in the woods. They're running tests to determine what that was. Stephanie Harris, 10 on your side.
Now, in high definition, your Super for 10 forecast with Chief Meteorologist Don Slater.
This is not going to be the storm to end all storms, and it's not going to dominate our whole weekend, but it will dominate tonight and into the day tomorrow. Now, as far as any kind of property damage, that could come if you leave your car parked where there's going to be some tidal flooding. So again, do watch out for that. As far as the winds, they're going to be strongest across the Outer Banks, as will the tides, because that's where the storm is developing, right on down into here. And you can see the twists and turns in this loop as the storm is developing right about into here right now. It has yet to fully develop, and it's going to kick in with a northeasterly wind. It already is, obviously, throughout the area, but it will especially do so for the Outer Banks. And of course, we got that temporary bridge at Pea Island, so they're really watching that. We have had a spritz or two of rain into the Hampton Roads area, not nearly as widespread as it has been for the Outer Banks. You can see it dropping right on through on those north and northeasterly winds into the area. So again, wind and tidal flooding are going to be the big things. It's not going to be major tidal flooding, and the wind is not going to be as strong as last week. But again, you can see the whole twisting and turning motion of this whole situation. And there's where it is at midnight tonight. It's going to drop southeastward. So instead of taking the traditional route of a northeaster and move right on up toward New England, it's going to continue southeastward over the next couple of days. So I think by Sunday we'll see conditions improve pretty dramatically in terms of wind, and the tide should drop on off as well. Now, a much closer view. Again, you can see where this storm is right on into here. We move into our area, show you what's been going on, and show you some of the rain from earlier, and again, a spritz or two of rain right now. But the storm is going to keep developing well to our south, but that's obviously closer to Hatteras. So Hatteras, you're going to get the worst of it. Instead of 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, you could likely get winds gusting to around 50 for Cape Hatteras. Here's where we are for the Hampton Roads area. Again, 20, 25 mile an hour winds. Sunshine to start the day, but some cloud cover off and on with that wind out of the north to northeast. The wind should drop on off a little bit later on in the day for tomorrow and into tomorrow night. 10 to 15 mile an hour winds coming up Sunday morning at 6. Remember to set your clocks back an hour. There's where we are at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then finally by the end of the day, 5 to 10 mile an hour winds, and the winds have dropped on off pretty nicely. So again, tidal flooding and wind are going to be the main effects out of this. Not as big as what we had last weekend. High tides are generally going to be between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock a.m. and p.m. We're under a high tide right now, but the bigger high tide will be tomorrow morning. It'll be closer to 4 o'clock for the Outer Banks, 6 o'clock for Virginia. Now, here's what's going on in terms of the wind and some spritzes of rain rolling on through the area for right now. And again, temperatures have been dropping throughout the area, but a few breaks in the clouds as well during the day today. Cloudy skies right now. Temperatures 56, 58 degrees. That's about as warm as we're going to get all day for tomorrow as we see again that wind continuing overnight, and during the day tomorrow it'll drop off later on in the day. A little better for Sunday, 61, and much better for next week.
Oh dear, $2 stuck together for hours. No, we don't know how this happened, but we'll show you how the wild animals got out of the situation.
Oh, that doesn't look like fun. Plus, you may have seen this by now, videotape of a judge beating his then 16-year-old daughter. Why investigators say he will not be charged.
This is perhaps the best part of the newscast. The surfers, for at least 2 surfers, these kayakers have a whale of a tale to tell, and here's the video to prove it. An amazing encounter with 2 large whales.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, it happened near the wharf in Santa Cruz, California. The humpback whales shot out of the water with their mouths wide open, apparently trying to catch fish. Then they sank below the surface. Okay, here's another great story. It's common to see deer on the side of the road. We all see them. But what is unusual is 2 deer that are stuck together. See them right there? This is what a driver spotted on a cornfield near Arnold, Nebraska. The white-tailed buck's antlers were tangled. Biologists with the State Games and Parks Commission had to carefully approach the deer and find the right time to rope them and subdue them. They untangled the wild animals by sawing off one of the buck's antlers. 4 hours later, both deer eventually ran off.
But they lost their antlers. Ouch. A Tennessee city is cleaning up. Literally, the cleanest in the nation. You're going to hear why. Plus, we're going to run down the dirtiest cities, too. And yeah, Virginia has a town on that list, unfortunately. Then new at 5:30, a Virginia woman dead after her SUV ran over her. You're going to find out what police say she did that led to her death, something many of us do every day. This is a tale of Felix and Oscar, the cleanest and the dirtiest of cities. Let's wash up with Knoxville, Tennessee, where the latest online survey says residents spend the most on cleaning supplies, $66.95 a month. Next, the Auburn area of Alabama, Missoula, Montana, Casper, Wyoming, and Springfield, Illinois round out the top 5. Alice.com says the top 5 items purchased are dishwater, cleaner, toilet cleaner, mildew remover, powdered cleaner, and sponges. The places that need a good scrubbing now, we're going to go to the Oscar side. Pocatello, Idaho, the dirtiest. Residents spend only $9.88 a month on cleaning supplies. And yes, Danville, Virginia's in there, the second dirtiest, followed by Rapid City, South Dakota, Pueblo, Colorado, and Pine Bluff, Arkansas. Maybe they can use some Pine Sol there, too. Stay with us. WAVY News 10 at 5:30 starts right now.